Nancy, thank you for the grace. I receive it. And thanks to everyone. I get so encouraged when you say that this is the highlight of your week, because it's mine too. I come over that bridge on the 90 and I see the full moon and the sun setting, and I just think about what's going to happen. Like, who's God going to speak to? What does he have for you individually? Because he knows you better than I do, and I try to figure out what to say. But it's just really the Spirit speaking through me. I'm just like you, just a man. Russ said that I'm the messenger, not the message, but it's so fun carrying the message. It's a great message, and it works. It works. We've seen it. I want to thank King Solomon and the Queen of Pharaoh for the daughter of Pharaoh for letting us into their home this week. For those of you who weren't here last week, we figured out that Russ's alter ego is King Solomon. And he had 700 wives, so. We're thankful for the daughter of Pharaoh over here, Nancy, and for this beautiful penthouse that we get to all just sit, meditate in, and receive. Receiving is so important. A lot of people don't know how to receive. You've been trained to earn it. You've been trained to push it away because you don't feel that it's safe. Well, you're safe here. My message today is, who do you listen to? I mean, really. Who do you listen to? So many people are talking. Everybody's got something to say. That Eminem song just came out in my head. Everyone talks, they got something to say, but nothing comes out for the rich. They forgot about Dre. But, you know, everybody's speaking, and it's a really good question. Who do you listen to? Do you listen to your peers? Do you listen to people that are wiser than you? Many times I'll hear people share. I'll listen to Russ. I'll take that home with me for the rest of the week. I'll meditate on that. And there's so many great pearls of wisdom that people have to offer you, and they're sincere about it. You listen to your parents, your mommy, your daddy, the mom right here. Who are you reaching out to? What do you want to hear? It's hard to listen. I'm a Taurus. That's my sign, and we're known to be stubborn bulls. And you can ask a lot of women in my life and some of my girls, friends that are girls, or even my sister. If she were here, she'd say, "Yeah, Nathan's got a listening problem." He zones out sometimes. But it's true because, it's hard to listen, especially when you think you have all the answers, you've got it all worked out. And you're also just confused because you don't know what to listen to and who to listen to and what is truth. It can get very confusing, for me at least. I don't know about for you. But over and over again, in the scriptures, in the Word of God, where He's teaching us how to live more abundantly, more powerfully, and more spiritually in our everyday existence, He teaches us through His Son, Jesus, over and over. And for those of you who are new, you might think we're Jesus freaks here. Well, we get a little freaky. But we like Jesus because of who He is in our lives and the power that's in Him. So Jesus, He's speaking to you, and it may not be in the same form of a voice that you're used to hearing. But He says that He speaks to us in a still, small voice. It doesn't have to be loud and come down from the clouds. It doesn't have to be in a tree where it splits open and here comes this loud voice. It's an inner talking, and therefore an inner knowing, but then you question yourself and you say, well, how does God speak to me, and is He really talking to me? So who do you listen to? Everybody's giving you advice. Everybody's got something to say. What's the right answer? You're not alone. Everybody's confused. Since the beginning of time, people have been confused on who to listen to. The children of Israel were in slavery for hundreds of years under the Egyptian rule. And over, God the Father was trying to relate to his people, Israel, through faith, through him telling them things, like when he told Moses to go and tell Pharaoh, let my people go. These are bold proclamations where God is speaking to man's life to change the world for revolution and freedom, especially with the children of Israel. Over and over, the children of Israel, they would not listen because they thought, and you can't blame them, they were in slavery for hundreds of years, held captive. They didn't know who to trust. It doesn't matter if they saw the miracles happen. He split the Red Sea. It doesn't matter what kind of provision was provided for them. They were wounded people that were in bondage. And so when you're a slave to this world system and you don't know who to listen to, it's hard for you to find the right voice because you're afraid. Fear. That's the world system. It's fear. The spirit of the world is fear. Every thought that leads you to a fear is the spirit of the world. And you got to understand, if it's good, it's from God. If it's evil, it's from the devil. There's only two thoughts coming in your mind. Boom, boom, boom. Two, God, good, devil, evil. Pretty simple, right? It gets complicated. Because the devil is an angel of light, so he likes to seduce you with thoughts that you think will lead to something, but it really leads to death in your mind. So the children of Israel, and when the Ten Commandments were given to Israel, I still believe, after studying the heart of the Father over and over again, I still believe that it's a wound and it's a thorn in his side, that God has a side. It's something that he didn't want to do. He didn't want to relate to man on the basis of 10 commandments or rules or the system of, hey, I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm going to give you a list and you follow the list and then everything will come into place. He's always wanted to relate to mankind, you and me, on the basis of faith. Him saying something, you believing it, and then you doing it and watching the supernatural happen in your life. But over and over again, we fall into that place of fear and we fall into that place of questioning. So who do you listen to? Who? God. But see, God, in his omnipotence, his power, if he were to reveal himself to you right now, you just fall flat to the ground. You couldn't be in the presence of his glory. So he has to speak to you in another way. And over again, he talks about his son, Jesus, who was brought to this earth to speak to you through his Spirit in a way that you can understand. He likes to speak your language. Because you're not going to listen to anybody that doesn't talk the way that you need to hear them. You're going to shut down. If someone's not relating to you and someone doesn't know you deeply, how can you have a conversation with people like that? Do you have intimate relationships with people who don't get you? Absolutely not. Those are the friends over there. The friends that are closest to you, the girlfriends, boyfriends that are closest to you. Those are the people that know how to talk to you and know how to get your attention and know how to get your ear because you're ready to listen to them. So the Mount of Transfiguration was a powerful event in the history of this man, Jesus Christ, who was fully man and fully God, the Son of Man. And I'm going to read here in Matthew about the Transfiguration. This was a really cool day, and this really happened. You're going to have to listen to this. It's crazy. It says here in Matthew 17, after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter. Everybody know who Peter is. He was like numero uno apostle. He was the guy that cut the soldier's ear off. He was crazy. He was passionate. He was ready to fight everybody in the name of Christ. He's ready to take on the armies. So it says, after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, his number one disciple, James, and John, the brother of James, so you don't get confused with the other John who wrote the book of John, and led them up, Jesus led them up to a high mountain by themselves. Okay? So you got a picture of Jesus, the Son of God, Son of Man, who's doing all these healings and raising people from the dead. When he chooses you as the top 3 to go to a mountaintop by yourself, something freaky is about to happen in a good way. It's going to be powerful. So he knew who to bring with him. Keep that in mind. So he goes up. He's got Peter, James, John, and they're up at the high mountain. And suddenly, he was transfigured before them. Do you know what transfiguration is? I'm not talking about Caitlyn Jenner. I'm talking about like transfiguration. This isn't a pill you take. It's not plastic surgery. This is the power of God and his anointing transfiguring your face so they couldn't even recognize Jesus anymore. He didn't look like a man anymore. It says there, he transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun. It was so bright. And his clothes became white as light. Just then, there appeared before them Peter, James, John, Jesus, who doesn't look like Jesus anymore. He's glowing. Moses appeared before him, and Elijah, and they were talking with Jesus. Now, everybody's got to know who Moses is. Talk about the Ten Commandments. We all know who Moses is. Led the Israelites out of captive Egypt. And then Elijah, we mentioned before, was a powerful prophet. You know Elijah was so powerful that he didn't even die? God took him on a chariot to heaven. He got a free ride to heaven. He didn't have to suffer and die. That's how powerful Elijah was. People would come to Elijah, and he would lay hands on them, and they would just morph. Crazy. Elijah had so much power. Crazy. He was a prophet. So you got Moses and the prophet just appear out of nowhere. This is like the scene in Return of the Jedi where Luke Skywalker at the end of the movie, like Yoda appears and he's glowing, and then you got Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know? Who's the other one? Okay, I'm looking at you. Was it Vader? Was it? His dad was there. So I mean, that's the transfiguration. Suddenly you're Luke Skywalker, and here in this glowing form is Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda and the Father, and there's somebody else there, but I can't remember. Anyway, so it's really impressive, guys. I mean, you could walk around with Jesus, but then you see these guys who've been dead for hundreds of years just appear out of nowhere. Come on. Awesome. So just when they appeared, Moses and Elijah, they start talking with Jesus. Now, what on earth would Elijah and Moses need to talk with Jesus about? Because they are obviously with God the Father. You see the authority of Jesus that's given by God the Father. Why would Moses and Elijah need to have a conversation with Jesus Christ? Why would they need to talk to him if they're already in the presence of God? The authority that Jesus has that's been given by the Father. They wanted an audience with him. They wanted to listen to what he had to say. So Peter said to Jesus, you know Peter, that zealot who cut off the ear of the soldier when they were about to take Jesus into custody. I mean, Peter's just, he's crazy, but he's passionate. Peter said to Jesus, Lord, talking to Jesus, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 big tabernacles on this mountain. 3. 1 for you, Jesus, 1 for Moses, and 1 for Elijah. What do you think? Huh? Isn't that a great idea? We'll make 3 tabernacles. Everybody can go in there. You want to worship Moses one day, you can go worship Moses. You can go, pray to Elijah, because Elijah has power. And, that's what they thought back in the day. Moses, the law of Moses was so predominant. So people would go to, what did Moses say? What did Elijah say? So Peter's like, yeah, let's go see all 3 of these guys, you and Moses and Elijah. Why not? Let's build some tabernacles. We'll go pray and talk to them. They have wisdom. While he was still speaking, Peter, when he made this bright idea, a bright cloud covered them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased." Not Moses I'm well pleased, not Elijah I'm well pleased. See, the problem that we have with our faith is that we believe that we have to conjure up this great faith to make ourselves acceptable to God, to please God, to appease God with the things that we do. Well, I did 5 things right today and 2 things wrong, so I guess God's pleased with me. God's pleased with the Son. He just said, "In whom I'm well pleased." He didn't say, "Wow, Moses, I think you did a great job leading those people out of Egypt. Elijah, you just raised so many people from the dead. I am so pleased with you. You're amazing. Wow." No, he said, "This is my Son, in whom I'm well pleased." What do you have to do to please God? Believe in the Son. Receive the Son. He'll be pleased with you no matter what you do. That's the power of the gospel. So while he was still speaking, the bright cloud covered them. A voice from the cloud said, "This is my son, whom I love." This is God speaking. "With him I am well pleased. Listen to him, Peter." I don't care what these other guys have to say. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell face down to the ground, terrified. I mean, can you imagine? First you see that Obi-Wan Kenobi stuff, and then all of a sudden this voice comes from the sky, and he's yelling, "Hear him!" And all this majesty and splendor, and the sky's shaking, and it's like a movie. And they fall on their face. Why wouldn't you be terrified? Some of you want to talk to God. That's why you can't go see God. You fall on your face. Thank God for Jesus that you got someone else to talk to. So they lay on the ground, their faces, and I just love what Jesus does. It says, "But Jesus came and he touched them." See, Jesus isn't just an all talk, no game. He's action with his hands. So when he saw them, he came to them, and then he put his hands on them and touched them. He's like, "Guys, it's going to be okay." Now, wouldn't you think that Jesus would be like every other man who's got all this authority and all this power? God just split the sky and said, "Listen to this guy. What would you do with all that power?" "I'd go start an empire." "Hey, listen to me. Oh, look at me. I got all the answers." But no, the first thing that Jesus does with his authority from God the Father and his ability to hear everyone and his ability to speak and that he knows he's going to be heard, you know what he does with that authority? He stoops down and he touches them and he says, "Don't be afraid." So what Jesus is trying to speak into your life is not fear. He's always trying to rid you of the fear. What keeps you fearful is your self-conscious, alcoholic, insane, never shut up mind. That's what keeps you in fear. It's the spirit of the world. The first thing you do when you watch the news, you think the apocalypse is coming, you go buy a bunch of groceries and you hide in a basement because the tornado's coming. Right? Listen to the news for an hour. No, 30 minutes. The spirit of the world. What's the spirit of the world? 15 people got shot. The earthquake's coming tomorrow. Go to some churches like that. They'll fear you into doing something irrational because the apocalypse is coming and God's just going to burst through the sky and fry everyone. I mean, that's where we live. It's not your fault. You're just surrounded by the spirit of fear. But what if, when that situation comes and you watch the news and you hear a terrible thing going on in your area, what if the first thing you do is say, "Jesus, should I be worried about this?" And then he speaks to you and he says, "No, don't worry about that. I'll let you know if you need to go buy some food and run into a basement. Don't worry about that." Or how about you are diagnosed with a certain kind of medical illness, something that's terrible, and you get the news, and you're the loved one of the person. What do? Ask the Spirit for revelation. Hey, what's going on in this situation? Should I be afraid? And he'll speak to you and he'll guide you to the right people that will encourage you along the way. So your mind doesn't think the worst, because that's exactly what your mind goes to. Russ talks about all the time. He sees a cop, he's already at the courthouse. "This is my son, listen to him," because you know what happens? Jesus is going to say some weird stuff to you. And the first thing that your spirit of the world mind is going to do is you're going to go right to, "That's nuts. That's not God. I didn't hear God." And then you won't follow up on the action that needs to take place for the word that you just received because you're too busy trying to figure out with the logic and the reason of your mind. You see, the Greek text of the Scriptures, the Greeks invented a word called logic, reason, intelligence. They want you to figure everything out through logic. There is no logic in Jesus Christ. It's all revelation. But if you would let your mind get out of the way, your spirit would start receiving the word that you need in your life to not just get through the day, but to reign in life like kings and queens reign. Who wants to reign in life? Now, I want to take you back just for a second because we're talking about Peter. Oh, so he came and he touched him and he said, get up. He not only makes you not afraid anymore by listening to him, but then he says, hey, get up. What are you doing? Stop laying on the ground afraid. What are you afraid for all the time? Get up! Now, you have no ability to get up. You're afraid. What gets you up? The power of His Word got you up. The power of His Word wakes you up sometimes. When you just want to sleep all day. I got to go meditate. I got to go do my work. I got to go meet with Him. Get up. Do something. Stop being afraid all the time. Don't be afraid. When they looked up, they saw no one but Jesus. What happened to Moses and Elijah? You want to know what happened to Moses and Elijah? As soon as God split the sky and said, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased, whom I'm loved, and Peter said, let's build a tabernacle to the other guys, he sucked them out. Elijah and Moses just got sucked right back up to heaven. He's like, get out of there. Don't you even think about building a tabernacle to those two. Listen to my son. They're all alone. What happened to Moses and Elijah? You see, if you start listening to other things, the spirit of the world, other people in your life that are talking fear, trying to give you all this negativity, what's He going to do? God's just going to suck them right up. Get out of there. He's going to say, listen to Jesus. What are you listening to these other people for? Oh, he's some great spiritual guy or woman, or, oh, he's got all this knowledge. Who cares? I've got knowledge. What does that matter? If I were to try to go preach in a church, a big church, they'd be like, oh, Nathan, you've got you're so passionate. But, you got to go to school, you got to go to college, you got to go study the Bible, you got to go get a degree. When you get your degree in theology, then you can come preach to these people. I mean, that's how the world thinks. I don't have a college degree, but I'm speaking to you, and I'm preaching the good news of the gospel by faith because of what the Spirit tells me to tell you, and it's for you, and it's to alleviate you of your fear. You have the power to carry the message. What's the message? When you see another brother or sister who's in their head, just like Russ is a sponsor in A, what do? Hey guys, what's that thing you just said about serenity?
Grant me the serenity, accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that one.
Yeah, boom. Courage that can, boom.
Change the things I can, the wisdom of that.
Speaking to your life. Speaking here. Listen. The power to transform. See, Peter was a great guy because he was so zealous to speak and protect Jesus Christ. He was just always on His team. I'm going to show you what happened before the Mount of Transfiguration, and then we'll close. It says, when Jesus came to a region, He asked His disciple, who do people say that the Son of Man is? He's basically asking, you guys are with me all the time, but what is everybody else saying about me? Who do they think I am? Am I a prophet? Am I a teacher? They replied, the other disciples replied, they said, well, some say you're John the Baptist. Others say Elijah. Remember Elijah? He was the guy that went, psh. And still others, Jeremiah or one of the prophets. So they basically think that Jesus is like one of these reincarnated prophets just walking around because He has all this power. That's what other people are saying. That's the spirit of the world. Let's logically rationalize who Jesus Christ is. Let's try to figure out His origin, why He's here, what we think He is. And everybody, that's like, I love scientific people because, they all come together and everything's a hypothesis. It's like, well, we think this is how the world was formed, but then this. And then there's no answers. Everybody's just talking and they've got facts and terminology. So this is the spirit of the world. People are saying that He's like a prophet resurrected because they can't accept that He's the Son of God. So they reason. See, be careful with reason and logic. You'll get trapped. But what about you, Peter? He asked. I don't care what the other people say. Who do you say that I am, Peter? And boy, does Peter have the best answer ever. He says, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Now, how did Peter get it and nobody else got it? I'm glad you asked. Jesus replied, "Blessed are you, Simon, the son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood." Nobody else wrote a term paper on who I am that you read, formed an opinion and a conclusion off of man's logic and reasoning. No, that's not where you figured out that I'm the Messiah, the living God. This came to you by my Father in heaven. You see, it was Peter's listening to the Father, receiving it in his spirit. It was his spirit that declared Jesus to be the Son of the living God. Your spirit is more powerful than your stupid mind ever will be. Sometimes you got to get your mind to shut up and just listen to the Spirit. Because if you're not operating in the Spirit, you'll make dumb decisions and come to hypotheses and opinions and all these things based on how you were raised and your history and your pathology and all the wounds that you received, and you'll start to figure out life. What's the meaning to life? Let's go and figure it out. And Jesus is coming and say, don't be afraid, just live. Live with me. Okay. Peter, because you have believed from my Father in heaven. See, Peter just believed God. That's why he knew who Jesus was. That's all you have to do is believe God. And I tell you that you are Peter. On this rock I will build my church. On the rock of Peter. An overzealous guy who didn't use logic and reasoning. Peter wasn't an educated man, and God said, I'm going to build my church on you. You're the rock that I'm going to build my church. Because you believed. And the gates of Hades will not overcome it, and I will give you the keys of the kingdom. Peter, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. I hope you're getting this. Because there's something in here for you that is so contrary to the message that you receive on a daily basis from people in your life. And you, Adam and I, we were doing something on Thursday night, and we had a friend who was in a lot of trouble. She was in a lot of pain. She was hurt. She was having panic attacks. She almost got up and left the table. She's like, I can't be here. And there were other wonderful, loving people around her that were speaking into her life, and everybody just had such good words of wisdom and great tools to kind of get her to stay at the table. And the whole time, the Spirit's talking to me, and he's like, you got to pray over her. No, she needs prayer. I said, what if she doesn't want the prayer? This is weird. Why would I pray over her? She doesn't want prayer. Everybody else is giving her good advice. So, I'm a chaser, so if Spirit tells me to do something, I'm like, okay, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to hunt you down. And our friend left who was giving the great advice, and it was just me and Adam. And I said, so we go to her car, and it's dark outside, and you see these two big dudes and this little girl, and we're get in the car. Because we don't want to do it on the street, people think people are sleeping, and me and Adam, we pray hard, So we get her in the Jeep, and she's in the Jeep, and I'm still not, I've said this before, I'm just not feeling it, but I'm being, listening to the word that was said to me. Pray over her. Okay. Lay hands on her. So we get in the car, and it had to look weird if you're on the sidewalk, these two big dudes, and we're just reaching our hands towards this girl in the front seat, And and Adam, he's in the passenger seat, and he lays hands on her shoulder, and her side was in a lot of pain, so I'm grabbing her side. So I'm coming from the bottom, Adam's from the top, and it's just thank God we're not doing this on the street. It would look really wacky. And Adam starts off this prayer, and Adam just had a wonderful, anointed, sweet, soft, praising prayer. And I was like, oh, great. I'll let Adam do the praying tonight, because I just don't. And, so he's doing the praying, and this sweet stream's coming over, and she starts to get emotional, and she's crying. I'm just like, okay, whatever, she's emotional. She's an emotional person, whatever. So then I have my hand on her side, and he's done praying. The Spirit's like, now your turn. And I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. I'm just going at it. I'm touching the side, and you just feel her whole side jiggling. It's the whole thing's moving, this little baby's coming out. I don't know what's happening. I feel fire in my hand. it was just like this fire being released, and me and Adam are just feeling the presence of the Spirit. Adam's like, oh, this is cool. I just want to stay in this car. And we're just feeling it. Remember that, Adam? And we're just laying, and the fire's coming out. It got so bad my hand fell asleep. Like, literally, it was just like my hand went numb because of the power that was coming out of us. And she's just weeping and crying, and you could tell that something miraculous just happened. And, you know, it all came from me not wanting to do something, trying to reason in my head, well, did God really speak to me or did he not? But sometimes you just got to show up and do the wacky thing that God told you to do through Jesus Christ and just listen. Because I'm so thankful that I went to the car with Adam and we did that because she was changed. When you don't listen and you try to hear other things that get in your mind and your way, and you channel out everything but the Spirit of the living Christ, who is Jesus, the Anointed One, you're not going to be able to change anyone else, let alone yourself. Because you will be stuck to listening to that little voice inside your head. You know, I grew up watching Disney movies. I love Disney movies. And that Pinocchio movie, always let your conscience be your guide. Jiminy Cricket, right? Well, you know what? If I let my conscience be my guide, I'd be off the pier at Marina Del Rey in the bottom of the ocean right now. That's how messed up my conscience is. Always let the Son be your guide, be your life, and know that the only way you're going to please God is if you hear His Son. And His Son is dying to speak to you. He wants to tell you, don't be afraid. He wants to lay His hand on you so that you can get up and tell you to get up and do something. And He's going to be with you the whole step of the way. And maybe you're thinking tonight, well, I'm just a stubborn person. Maybe you're like me. Maybe you're like, I don't want to listen. I don't want to pay attention. But every time that you choose not to pay attention, something's going to get sucked out of you. And you're going to have nothing left but this human flesh and this human mind, when all the time Jesus is saying, I want to live in you and through you, and my Spirit is going to part the Red Seas in your life. And all you have to do is just believe in me, hear me, and receive what I have to give. And know it's true. You see, when Adam and I went to pray over that young lady, I couldn't feel anything. I felt nothing. I was tired and I had a low blood sugar. And so I was looking for something in my physical body as a manifestation of God, as proof to keep going and to keep praying. What? That still small voice inside of me. And I remember God saying, listen to Him. And I listened. And the power came out of me anyway, regardless how my body felt. If you want to do the miracles and change the world and the people's worlds that are around you, it's like when you get a call from a family member who's in just terrible circumstances. I don't know how to pray for people. I really don't. But let the Spirit pray through you. He knows exactly what to pray for. We're waiting to find the words and to make a fancy, nice prayer. Just let the Spirit, let the Holy Ghost of Jesus Christ pray for you. He'll know how to say, don't be afraid. He'll know how to tap them on the head and say, get up. We have such little respect and regard for the Word of God because we've been trained in the spirit of the world, which is, let's take a situation, reason it out, find the logic in it, and then at the end we'll sprinkle a little God on top, and we might just tap into Jesus if we feel necessary. Start the other way around, because even Moses and Elijah, the most powerful men of God that ever were recorded in the Scriptures, if they wouldn't have listened, they wouldn't have been where they are. And the fascinating thing about that whole Mount of Transfiguration was He transfigured Jesus' face, not Moses and Elijah. Jesus got the shining face and the white clothes, and He got the clouds parted. Whose power do you want? Do you want the power of Moses and his law? Do you want the power of Elijah the prophet? Or do you want the one that's being transformed, who has been transformed, and who received all the glory, all the bright light, all the power, and all the authority? Stop praying to weak gods in your mind. So many religions, and if you believe in another religion, I'm not saying this at you. I just want you to hear me. So many religions will have you reason out why their way is the right way and our way is the wrong way, and you could go nuts talking to people. You know what I learned a long time ago? I don't have to convince anybody through reason and logic or sit them down and show them Romans Road to lead them to a relationship with God through Jesus Christ. It's much beyond that now. I shut my head off when I'm talking to them, and I let the Spirit speak through me. And I've seen it over and over again at Signature Grace gatherings. People that I know, I've talked to them, I know what they don't believe, I know things about them, and the speaker, like when you had Joe here one week, I had a friend, he said exactly what this person needed to hear beyond, because I had talked to them privately, things that they could relate to. And man, this language that the Spirit speaks is such an interpersonal language that it amazes me every week when I preach and you go around and we talk and you guys are like, oh, I needed to hear that. Jessica will say at the time, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Now, if I would have sat down and made an outline and tried to figure out every little thing that I think you guys need, I'd go nuts. Stop relying on your human intellect and let the Spirit of God speak through you. And who do you listen to? Jesus Christ, through the Father and the Spirit. And by revelation, you will discover the mysteries and the joy and the wonderment of life. And listen, revelation has nothing to do with your mind. It's all about your spirit. It's all about your spirit. Be transfigured through listening. It'll change your face, change your life. And that, sir, is everything.
I'm Russell. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Russ.
Man.
Hi, Russ.
Oh man, I love your message, man.
Thank you. I can never tell.
It's none of your business.
No, I always look at
I'm
Russ and
kidding.
I'm like, oh crap, it sucks.
No. There's that people pleasing again. It's okay, man. It's we all got it. That was
You're my Obi-Wan.
first drug of choice is probably what you thought of me. But yeah, man. Thank God I don't have to figure it out. They say there's in AA it's how it works, not why it works. And it's that for a reason, because alcoholics, man, and for me, I think humans, I complicate things, you know. The ism, insane, sudden moves. I'm impulsive, ISM. I seek more of anything, ISM. I sabotage myself, ISM. I sponsor myself, ISM. That's the ism. I was reading, I wanted Tyler to be here, but we go through the steps diligently. And we were going through step 3, which was made a decision to turn my will and my life. My will is my thoughts, my life is what I do, over to the care of God as I understood it. And there's this part where it's an amazing chapter, but he says he's talking about the newcomer, the guy who you're preaching to, and they say, yes, respecting alcohol, I guess I get it. I have to be dependent upon AA, but all other matters, I must still maintain my independence. Nothing is going to turn me into a non-entity, right? And then he asks the question, if I keep turning my life and my will over to the care of something, that's God's number one used term for God is something, or somebody else, what will become of me? I'll look like the hole in the donut, right? And then Bill, was so divinely brilliant, he goes, this, of course, is the process by which instinct and logic always seek to bolster egotism and so frustrate spiritual development, right? So,
Oh my God.
oh, this guy's, you have no
That's
idea.
exactly what we
That's
just
what I'm saying. This is divinely stuff. Divinely. I wouldn't read it. I wouldn't be in this if I didn't believe in my whole
That's
heart.
everything
That's
that's-
exactly right.
Oh.
So, The trouble is that this kind of thinking takes no real account of the facts, and the facts seem to be these. The more I become willing to depend upon a higher power, the more independent I actually am. Therefore, dependence, as AA practices it, is really a means of gaining true independence of the spirit, right? And then he makes all these examples, which I love. So I just sit on this chair. I don't doubt it. I don't test it out, think about it. I'm like, when I walk in here and I hit the light switch, I believe the lights are going to turn on. When I go and I turn that TV, I believe the TV's going to turn on. When I turn the faucet on, I go on and on and on. That's independence by me truly depending that those things are going to work.
Wow.
Why can't I do that with my faith? That's my dilemma. If I could approach life with that same dependence on, I know you're going to work just as much as I know when I hit that light switch. I don't know how many problems I'd have, man. I don't know if I'd have any. That's the whole point of this whole program, to be honest. For me, is trusting and relying on a higher power. But, yeah, and then in step 2, it talks about quitting the debating society, right? Which is, so I come in, I see, so for years I thought, it says, it says, powerless over alcohol, my life became unmanageable, right? So my mind reads that for years, and it says this, I'm powerless over alcohol, and because I drank so much and used so much drugs, my life became unmanageable, right?
Okay.
Incorrect. It's not what it means. I'm powerless over alcohol, and my life became unmanageable. My life became unmanageable because I'm the wrong power of my life. I was the wrong power of my life, and still the wrong power. So when I'm running my life, as I was running my life became unmanageable. That's why my life's unmanageable, because I'm the wrong power for my life. So when I know I'm the wrong power, and I really, really know that I'm the wrong power for my life, and that's the craziest surrender there is. You know how crazy, you know how deep that runs? Think about that. Because since I'm a baby, the first thing I'm trying to do is learn how to walk, learn how to talk, learn how to make friends, learn how to survive in school, learn how to get good at things, learn how to get good. My whole life is based on survival, right? And gaining more and becoming more. And then someone's going to tell me, hey, you're powerless. I go, what? And it says in the book, in the first paragraph of the 12 and 12, who cares to admit complete defeat? Complete defeat. Every natural instinct cries out against the idea of personal powerlessness. That's what it says. That's me. Every idea cries out against, wait a second, I don't have power. I've been running my life up to now. Yeah, that's my problem. Right? So then because I know this, then I'm forced to go to a faith in step 2.
Wow.
I'm forced to. I have no decision. There's no decision. There's nowhere else to go.
Wow.
It's crazy how these steps are broken down.
I
It's
know,
insane.
it's so ties in
Perfect.
with everything. Oh my God, the dependence.
Yeah, so this dependence thing.
Yeah,
And
it's so cool.
there's a funny story. I want to tell a little funny story. This guy, Bob Anderson, who I love. I'd love you to listen to. I'll send you some links. So he was pulling in a parking lot. This is awesome. He's pulling in a parking lot, right? And it's him and this other guy, and they're both in the car. And there's one spot, right? This is before Bob was like heavy in the steps or whatever. So they're kind of going for it, and Bob slides in, all right? Then the guy like screeches, and the guy gets out. And he gets out, and he's upset, right? So the way Bob tells it is, they say, Bob, what happened? He says, well, the guy got out, and he was upset over the parking spot. I got out, and I was upset over the parking spot and everything that happened to me from 15 years ago. Now, how aware is that dude? He's a genius. He's a genius. Now that's who I am, man. That's what I'm up against, you know. So, isn't that amazing? It's amazing, right? So, one last thing. So, a couple things because I like telling on myself. I love telling. Well, that's the rigorous honesty. Without that, I can't survive, or I can, but I'll die insane. I'll go insane. That's the first principle for alcohol. AA. It's rigorous honesty. So I like telling on myself. So a couple things. All right. So I was backing up and in parallel parking, and I bumped into a car behind me, and I got out earlier. There was no one in the car, and I got out around 5 p.m. And I got out and started looking at the car. And I'm like, and it was a lower car. I'm like, I don't really see any scratches, right? I didn't. And then I saw this little scratch on top, but I don't know if it was from my car or not. I know it was an older car. And so I start, it's what voice am I listening to? That's what I'm going to share this, right?
Yeah.
What authority am I listening to, right? So the authority one was like, dude, your car's too high. That's not your scratch. And then, by the grace of God, I was like, well, man, you got to practice what you preach or attempt to. So I was like, screw it. Even if that's not my scratch, I got to trust and have a faith that guy won't abuse this. And even if he does abuse this, maybe he needs to abuse this, and for some reason I need to pay for a scratch that I didn't cause. Because I have to believe in this moment that God's for me, right? So that was the spirit. So I got a little piece of paper, and I just wrote, hey, I bumped into your car. I don't know if I caused a scratch, but if I did, here's my number. I don't think I did. Boom, left it there, right? Never heard from him. It's not the point. Point is, if I wouldn't have done that, right, would I have gone throughout my day with the little thing in the back going, uh-oh, is karma going to get me? Or another thing that I store in that compartment box that no one knows about, that gets fuller and fuller and fuller, and then needs to come out somewhere, and then I repress it, and then I get anxiety over it out of nowhere, So that's for me. I get to do that today. I get to do that. And then beforehand, so I got to the studio, this other studio, and I opened my book bag, and my hard drive and my mouse was not there. Now, I have a lot of stuff on that hard drive, right? And it's weird because I came home last night. I was out all day. I was working with sponsees. Then I went to the studio. Then I went right to a men's meeting. Then I came right here. Nancy was here with a friend. And I try to be pretty present, and I do not remember taking out the hard drive from my book bag and the mouse. So, man, I'm an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. And thank you, God, for reminding me of my disease, because the drive from the studio to here was literally clear as day, seeing people holding that hard drive for ransom, what they look like, how much I was going to have to pay them, how am I going to be able to restock all these sounds, calling up producers, telling Adam and Dave I've lost this, and then the painful thing, and this is again why knowledge doesn't cure the disease. Knowledge doesn't cure the disease, right? It's what I do, action. Because action brings me to faith. Because with all the knowledge, and I'm not saying I have a lot of knowledge, but I studied this crap a lot. Right. While I was driving, the other brain was going, Russell, you're an alcoholism. Russell, you're an alcoholism. Russell, and your alcoholism. Now it didn't matter. Didn't matter. Because I still was like afraid. So I get home, I run up. I'm such an alcoholic. It's amazing. I have to say it. I love it. It keeps me humble and teachable. And I run up, and I literally peeked. Because I didn't know, because if it wasn't there, someone had taken it, and that would have been a problem. And I look in, and the mouse is right there, and the hard drive is right there. Yeah, the hard drive right there. But then what I did realize is that mouse would have been gone, and that hard drive would have been gone if I was drinking or using. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was interesting today. I shared about this a bunch, but I don't want to share it about it that much anymore. It's been a couple weird weeks, week and a half, but there's been a big shift that happened Sunday, and I just want, and I felt great. Sunday was an amazing day. Monday was fantastic, and today I'm feeling really present and positive and here in the grace. And I just want to share about it says this, to search and research, read and reread. Joe M., who everyone knows, he says there's two things. There's a big book and then there's a big book open. Big difference, right? Okay, so my whole point in this is that here's the grace, is that when I was going through a little funk or whatever, I was like, what more action can I take? What action can I take? Because that's that dependence, What can I take? It doesn't matter. I got to listen to them. It doesn't matter how I feel. I got to work with these sponsees anyway. I'm just going to go to these meetings. I'm not going to figure it out. I can't heal the same mind with the same mind that made me sick. Can't do it. I heal the mind by the Spirit. How do I find the Spirit? By getting out of that mind. How do I get out of that mind? By reaching out, getting into action, getting out, getting engaged in life, getting busy, getting connected, reaching to people, shifting the focus, taking showers, helping someone else out, volunteering, doing music, taking a run, whatever I do. I cannot heal the sick mind with the same mind that got me sick. Can't do it. It's impossible. I heal the mind with the spirit. So that's my dilemma. How can I tap into the spirit? I'll shut up after that. But so really your message. This was one of my favorite messages because it reminds me because I'm an alcoholic of the intellect type. I like to turn it into alcoholics analysis. I'll turn anything out. That's not what it is. And it's not about that. It's not about the figuring it out. I can't figure it out. I can't. We don't have to figure it out, right? It's not why it works. It's how it works. And I'm so glad it's how it works. Anyway, thanks.
Say that